What's up, buddy?
Hey, can you hear me?
Audio is good. Audio is good.
Bro, I've had some of the most incredible technical difficulties of my life today.
Lucky you.
Fuck. I'm glad I got backup camera after backup camera. Let's
Par for
go.
the course. You know how it rolls. It's never supposed to go smooth.
Never supposed to go smooth, bro. Let's go.
If it goes smooth, you did something wrong, I think.
Yeah, 100%, dude.
Awesome, buddy. Good to connect here and good to have you on back on another live stream. We have a few people joining in the Zoom room to participate. You guys can take notes as me and Fred are going over some topics, and we'll get to some Q&A toward the end of this as well. And what we're really covering, as you guys saw me post about, or maybe you saw the videos I was talking about, and Fred, you know this every time we talk about, each other's genius and we're talking about, what we pick from each other's brains when we collaborate. I always say you're one of, if not the best kind of communication experts I know. And I think everything you do kind of falls within that realm, your zone of genius. And it's just so relevant to every aspect of digital marketing, sales, everything I could talk about, that I thought we could just kind of do an overarching communication masterclass, for lack of a better phrase. Not like a structured paid masterclass, but just run through some of the key points that are going to help everybody, whether you're viewing now, whether you're viewing on the replay. I upload these all to YouTube, so if you're watching there, give us a shout out, a subscribe, or go check out Fred's channel as well, which will be in the description below. But Fred, let's just start off talking a little about your expertise, maybe give a quick little intro, and then we'll dive into some stuff, man.
Yeah, man. No worries. Definitely always happy to jam with you. Me and Ray jam all the time. We're going to be jamming even more. But the difference is, what y'all got to understand, is that when you really get a hold of great communicators like Ray, like me, like whoever, you really want to stay with them, because that's what really moves the needle. So as an example, my son graduated last night, and I didn't realize how great of a speaker I was until I heard people really stumbling with their words and thoughts. And we don't tend to think about that in social media because we're always on, right? But when you think about how we practice to convert, how we practice to get things done, it all starts with the words and how the words are organized and arranged, quite frankly, in a way to where it doesn't sound canned or scripted. So that's what I do. I'm at the intersection between the fundamentals and the technicals. I live right in that sweet spot because my brain has gotten stretch marks from being all over the place, literally end-to-end digital communication, that I learned back in 1996 in the Marine Corps. So it's not easy when I'm coming out of this world where they tell you as a broadcaster, you're supposed to be thinking about 5 billion people, and now it's 8 billion people. So that wasn't the hard part. The hard part was really refocusing and just channeling all of that energy and that expertise into a way to where there's a singular focus, and that way I can use both sides of my brain. And I don't think a lot of entrepreneurs either are aware of that, or they don't know that they should do that, because usually we get stuck in the technical side of communication, or we get stuck on the creative side of the communication, and somewhere between you need to have both in order to get traction in the marketplace. So that's what I do.
That's awesome. That's so well said, in the way you word it. And that's, Fred's right. We've been jamming for 4+ years off and on, probably more on than off. And I think we're going to be jamming more on going forward as well. But we always word things differently, he and I, which is really good, because sometimes it gets me to think of something that I wouldn't have brought up, and vice versa. And then Fred can elaborate, or myself, and just getting a couple different subject matter experts perspective or opinion is always so valuable. Just like a doctor, right? Nobody just settles on the first opinion, generally speaking. At least I don't. I'm not going to speak for everybody else, but I like to get second opinions, and I like to hear from multiple experts before I make decisions. And it's always great to mimic, other people that have been successful, but you also got to add your own flair to it as well, and that's what keeps it more conversational and more genuine and unique. And Fred said something earlier of, I kind of rock between the area of fundamentals and the technicals, right? And I think that's so important. So we're going to cover some of the fundamentals, but what I would like you to speak just a little more on, Fred, is what are the differences, and like for people watching, or people watching anywhere, like what are the differences, and what do you mean by fundamentals versus technicals?
Cool. Now that's a great question. If you can get the idea of being a player on a football team or a soccer team or a baseball team, right? You have the player on the field whose job is to mainly run the play. Then you have the coach on the sidelines who have coached and trained that person up to perform that same function over and over again, and be a little bit more creative when it comes time to, like, somebody breaks. I don't know much about sports, guys. I'm a total word nerd. Okay, so like when it comes down to like
Excuse me.
they have to get creative in order to break that play so that they can still get the results. Right. That's a little bit of creativity involved with that, but for the most part, they're supposed to run the play that they were trained. Well, that play comes directly from the coach who's helping them execute it on the field. So if you can get the idea as
Other
creators,
those are
because
dirty.
that's where we're at now. We're creators. What we're working to do is to pull back and understand how the coach thinks as well as how the player plays. And this is what I mean by fundamentals versus technicals. You have to use your mind in a certain way to where you can really run through the plays. And that's the reason why in today's creator culture, you have to be an expert. You have to really be good at something. The fake it till you make it version 1.0 of online marketing is dead. Now that's not marketing hype. It's legitimately dead because in poker, there's this term called dead money. And the way that it works is you want to bet, and Ray knows this from playing poker just like I do. So, sometimes you'll just bet to clean up all the money because nobody else has any cards, but they tried to invest. That's kind of like what's going on in the online marketing space right now, because you have people who have mimicked, but what they failed to realize was, okay, that was 1.0. Now you really have to give people the gold. So you just can't sell the shovels these days. And the only way that you can do that is to be a real expert at what you do. Like one of my buddies posted the other day as an example, oh my God, these guys are still talking about client acquisition and none of them know how to do it. And he's right. And it's just
So much of that.
It's totally dead, guys. Like you really have to be a real expert in order to get lift and traction in your business these days. So understanding like how communication works, why it works, why you're the expert. Because me and Ray, I can tell you hands down, we still rock, but we have probably made more millionaires than a few other people who I know because we really get into their offers really deep through what they call the gap analysis. That's what me and him are good at. But the only way that you can get there is by understanding your craft. So it doesn't matter whether or not you're a top level marketer. It doesn't matter whether or not you're a top level expert, because most people don't want to be those anyway. They just want to get the clients and close and be good at who they are. It's our responsibility, if you're a marketer or an advertiser or a copywriter who's watching this, to really understand how the mind works and really get the idea of like when we're putting these words together, we want something to happen. And I think we miss that these days. And as a result of that, you have a whole bunch of people who've mimicked other people, but they're not prolific enough to really be creative enough to come up with their own unique ideas. And I think that's what's suffering in the marketplace right now.
That was a great, yeah. You touched on so many good points there, but you brought up something at the end there of how many millionaires we've probably created with the people we've worked with. I don't know if I know the answer to that, but there's quite a few. And one of the main questions I ask people before I really work with them, or when I start working with them, to know how far I can take this, how quick, what the trajectory will look like, all those type of things. And it's funny because I had a one-on-one with Tony, who's on the screen here listening, earlier today. It was the first time I had worked with her, and I've actually sent her over this worksheet, and she'll see on one of the things she needs to fill out if she hasn't already. But I really ask, how certain are you can get your clients this result we're offering, right? Because I always tell people, if you're not great at what you do, I'm not going to be great at helping you grow your business per se, right? I can't help subpar service providers or subpar industry experts kill it in a business. Can I help you make some money? Probably, but like, can I, you have to be certain that you can do what you say you can do. So being an expert or partnering with a top level fulfillment team, if you're white labeling and making sure you have a solid product for what you're going to market is very, very important.
Yeah,
sure.
all of this stuff matters, Ray. And bro, you're just too humble. I love you to death. You're always, oh yeah, look, man, Ray has put on a lot of people on the game. And that's the reason why whenever you're rocking with Ray, it really is a good idea to take accurate notes, because Ray only does what works. So that's one of the reasons why I rock with Ray so hard, because if it doesn't work, he's not going to talk about it. But when you understand that that's supposed to be your craft as well, whether you're doing organic marketing, whether you're doing advertising, whether you're doing accounting, it doesn't matter. You need to be in that spot, just like Ray, where if it's not working, don't talk about it. Like you can probably behind the scenes, because that's what you're working to do. But me and him have turned enough wrenches for me to watch him and really study him. So Ray's a good study as far, and I'm not saying to blow you up because you're my friend. I'm saying it because it's the truth, and you know that. It's just like legitimately, you have to be that great at your craft. And if you're trying to like sell marketing and you're not a quote unquote professional marketer, then my highest and best advice to not do it. Like straight up, understand your lane, understand your strengths, and then only build on your strengths. And I think that will help people get a lot more traction.
Great point. And that goes right back to, being a real expert. But in terms of what we're talking about today here and communication, you have to communicate that to your market, your prospects, not to the people on this call, not to your coaches or your mentors or your team members. Like, how do I communicate that I'm the expert, and how do I do it without sounding like everybody else? So that's all part of this as well. And you'll see when you ever work with me or even doing these trainings, I try to keep everything clear and concise to a very precise objective, because that's what it all is. We do a lot of different things in terms of our whole funnel, from startup to when we close a deal or enroll a client or whatever that looks like. And you have to break those down. Like, what's the objective of this specific thing? And how do I do that most effectively? And then how do I communicate it to elicit the response of substance that I want? That's another thing I like to say. When we're communicating with people, more so in a conversation matter, let's say on a discovery call or something, even in Messenger back and forth or SMS, like, we want to ask questions that are going to elicit a response of substance, not just yes, Ray, no, Ray. And then like the conversation flow dies again. So I'm always very good about, at minimum, like 2-part questions when I'm talking to people. Hey, Fred, how long have you been in business, and how many clients are you currently working with? So I'm not going to get a yes, Ray answer there, right? And the conversation's going to kind of continue to grow organically.
Yeah, I want to answer that. I want to
add
that, right? Because what you said is spot on. The problem that I'm observing is that if people don't slow down enough to know exactly what they should be communicating, then regardless of the strategy, the tactics, and the techniques, they won't be effective because there's nothing behind it. You're sounding like everybody else in the marketplace, and that's the problem. So, like, Ray, you're amazing when it comes to the training, the development, all the strategies. What I've observed from what I've been doing is like the communication starts with that why. It starts with that why first in your head. And then what you want to be able to do is to crystallize, take it out the ether. Since you get that idea, we don't know where that idea is coming from. Call it God, call it source, call it whatever, but you're pulling from somewhere. So we have to figure out how to crystallize that and then articulate it in a way. So when it comes to the frameworks, when it comes to the structures, when it comes to the processes, when it comes to the methods, it's going to hit effectively. That's the reasons why I say that your message is your funnel first. Now, how you wrap it and how you put everything else around it, whether it's through DMs, whether it's through funnels, doesn't matter. But if you don't get that part done first, then how are you going to create an offer that's going to hit so that you can have a real conversation to talk about? If you don't do it in that order, then to me, you're wasting people's time. And then, yeah, sure, you can get a great script, but just like any great script, that's the reason why copywriting sucks if you only try to like grab somebody else's stuff, because that's not your energy, that's somebody else's energy, and people can feel that. So you got to be real. And that's the reason why I love the way that you move, Ray, is because you're very real when you do it. And we've gone back and forth with the screenshots. And people go, oh my God, like, I can't believe we're having a real conversation, and da 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 da. And like, even, you understand my point, guys? So that's what I would like to put up front, is that all roads start and end with that why. And then from there, you can just take the structures that we're talking about, and then you should be able to get traction. If not, so what? You swung, get the feedback, and fail fast and fail often, and just keep it moving.
And also think about, in all of our processes, everybody that's going to be watching now on this call, anybody that's got a digital business as an entrepreneur, our communication kind of always falls within a 4-part framework that you may or may not have heard me talk about before. I call ACEs. And there's all kinds of acronyms and frameworks, especially if I was to get in like within the PDOCS training and the success and the ECO and the SES and the, I could go on and on with all the different acronyms. But when we're communicating, think, where does this fall? Because what we're always trying to do is these 4 things with our communication, right? Number 1, we're trying to get attention. That's first. So whether it's a cold email, what's the objective of that? It's really to get somebody's response, to get them to open it and create some engagement or intrigue or interest, right? That's the main goal. I'm not necessarily trying to sell right now. I'm trying to, I'm trying to communicate and grab attention. Part 2, C, that's more of the conversation, and that's usually used for twofold. Number 1, when you conversate now that you've kind of got their attention, you're trying to pre-qualify them possibly. Hey, how many clients are you currently working with, and are you looking to take on more jobs? You might be trying to converse here to assess more where they're at. Hey, are you currently running some marketing campaigns, and is it your goal to scale in the next 3 to 6 months, right? So you're just trying to figure out like where they're at, so we can find the gap. And then the E comes in, and that's educating. So are we doing that through communication in Messenger, on the phone? Are we creating like a program overview, a short little video that's going to educate before we get to S, which is sale, right? So in the process, what I see a lot of people going wrong is they try to jump from A to S. I got their attention. Here's my booking link, or here's my link to buy my shit. It's like, but I didn't quite educate them, or I didn't pre-qualify them to see if they're actually struggling from the problem that my offer solves. If they're actually, at the point where I'm ready to work with them. Do they currently have a marketing budget? If not, why am I talking to this guy or sending him a link, right? So all those things kind of come into play. And I want you to think with whatever you're doing, whether you're creating an ad campaign, whether you're writing an email, whether you're sending a DM, whatever it is, like, what's the objective right now? Off the start, it's to grab attention. So how do I do that best? And just focus on that. Don't focus on making a sale before you've ever grabbed their attention. So Fred, I'm sure you probably have a little to add to that.
Yeah, I was just about to say, bro, you know how we roll. That's why we got to do this more often, dude. Like, we're like the Wu-Tang of the copywriting industry. It's crazy. But the thing about it, though, is just like what Ray said is spot on. You have to communicate with context. Because if you're not communicating with context, then anything out there is going to sound like you're speaking in the 70s or you're just not in your lane. Like, so, okay, so let's just get that idea that you're talking about right now. Like, we're using Messenger, we DM, and we're using the ACES framework, right? Yeah, you do it exactly the way that Ray said it. It needs to be loaded with something else, though. Where are we leading them to? Like, once you get all of those yeses out of them, where are we taking them? And again, if you are a marketer marketing to marketers, there's a such thing. It really is, and that's okay. You have to understand the context, because I have a lot of hitters just like Ray. Like, we got a lot of hitters and industry professionals on our timeline. So they're used to they're a little bit more sophisticated when it comes to the communication style, but it's still the same ACES process. You can just be a lot more faster with it because you guys have something in common. You see what I'm
a little more direct, but the same process.
Straight up, you can be direct. Ray, I talked to somebody yesterday that you talked to. I was like, Ray, yeah, that's my dude. He's like, okay, cool. So so you want that familiarity because you never know who you're going to run into online. We have to get that perspective as well. Don't expect that just because you're talking to somebody, even using these ACES frameworks or using PDOCS, right? Because me and Ray go deep into PDOCS. Like, y'all don't understand. It's sick how we really rock it. But none of that stuff matters without the communication with context. Even what me and Ray do, and Ray's kind of the nerd too. I love Ray with his cat backwards, but he loves research. Ray's a research beast. So
I'm kind of always doing it without even knowing I'm doing it.
Yeah, he's low key with it, man. But see, research is where the gold is. So if you guys can really get the idea that all of this data, like, why are you getting the data in the first place? Then when it comes time to communicate and use these frameworks, you're going to crush, because you can become more efficient with your communication, and because you're connecting more.
100%. And you said something really important there too, that I think sometimes people forget. We're online, we're selling, we're marketing, we're running funnels. We're still dealing with people. It's still a people game and a people sport and relational. So that's where it comes back to not using templated messages, scripted, and making it more verbiage, but also personal to that prospect. Like Fred said, within that ACES thing, what was left out? I didn't talk much about what's the outcome, what's their desire, what's the transformation they're trying to achieve, and then I got to kind of drop the breadcrumbs in my communication that lead them to that. I would rather make them acknowledge, yes, Ray, your program is exactly what I need, which is what I do, the way I communicate, rather than me, hey, Fred, you need my shit to get to the next level. Like, anybody that does that, that comes off. That sales resistance is built right there when you're telling somebody that your program is the ideal thing. I'd rather phrase it, make them think, and then say, hey, Fred, if you have this program implemented in your business today, do you think you can hit that goal of 10 extra clients? Yeah, Ray, 100% I do. So communication, it's much more powerful to get the prospect to say what you might want them to say than to you just say it. And there might be a couple extra questions. It might not be as direct, but it's going to be far more effective. So it's still a person thing. And the reason I have a lot of success with response rates and conversions is my relational style. And people can tell I'm never reading a script. I'm never BSing. It's just, and there's plenty of people I'll be like, dude, you're just not a great fit for us right now. You're just not quite at that level, but let me give you this free training. This is going to help you out. And maybe in a couple months, let's reconnect. Happy to help. Here's my free group. Attend some master classes, whatever. When you're at that level, we'll talk. But I'll just be straight up with you. I'm not going to sell them something or try to pitch them. And then when they are looking to buy, they're going to remember and they come back to me first before they ever go talk to other people. So keep that stuff in mind. Before I go on to my next one, I'll let you go, Fred, because I know you have some stuff to add again.
No, I appreciate that, brother. Yeah, so basically, templates are okay. What's not okay is if you use them verbatim because that's not your words. The way that it works, at least the
True.
way that I'm training people to get to the next level, because again, if you look at it in black and white, right? And Ray's really good at this as well. It's the difference between you saying, "Hey, how you doing? How's business?" Right? A lot of people who've been online for a long time know that that's an old template, right? So I'm going to be turned off automatically just because I've been in a game long enough. But maybe somebody who's new, they've never seen that before, so it's going to hit differently. So you have to know your audience sophistication. But it's also going to sound different if, like Ray says it via a VM. Hey, just checking in. Glad you're on my timeline. How's business? Right? You heard it. It's the exact same words. It's just the delivery's different. So we have to be mindful of like really how important these words are, because in our business, unfortunately, words can become commoditized really, really quick. So if we don't have that unique angle, if we're not really finding the best way of how our voice is online, then you're going to sound like everybody else. And yes, you will turn off, because Ray, getting back to the other example, the dude DM me, right? I'm gonna be on a podcast next week. He's got about a list of 15,000 people, right? And I'll tell you after we're done.
Oh, that might be the same person I'm going on. It sounds like him.
Right, right. Two comma club.
Yeah. Same
Right?
guy.
Yeah,
I know who you're
yeah,
talking about.
yeah. But the approach was
That's
almost
awesome.
like, I was like, damn, he's on like the second versions of this script. I'm like, is this real? You know, I wasn't even about to take the call. Like, this is the, and so Ray, you know, this is a true story because me and you did.
I just wrote a post about this the other day. I don't know if you saw it, but sorry, carry on.
Yeah,
Sorry.
but you see, I see how crazy the synthesis is right now. That's
funny.
what I call the process of synthesis right there, because me and Ray, this is a perfect example of it. But the way that he approached me, I was just like, is this like real? Like, I don't even know if I should do this. And one of my other
So
buddies,
funny.
yeah, my one of my other buddies had the same thing happen to like his Stripe account as an example. They were going to give him like some VIP access, right? Something that they rarely do. But the reality of it is how the approach was a turnoff, because we're sophisticated and it's just like, man. And then I'm glad I took the call, because next thing you know, I got booked. So it's cool. So my point to you in saying all of that stuff is like, these are real stories that you're getting in real time with me and Ray, just from the same audience. But again, you want to be able to understand that your words are going to stay out there forever. So as it begins, so as it ends. So make sure that when you're communicating, that you're communicating very intentionally, and that you, if you are going to use the same frameworks, that's cool, but just put your own spin on them, because you're going to miss opportunities. You're going to miss opportunities to help your clients. You're going to miss opportunities to get your name out there. Whatever you decide you want to do with this framework that Ray is teaching you, that's part of the overall structure you have to keep in mind as well for your communication.
Great points. And I'm glad you clarified that, because sometimes I don't really remember, or I think, not that I don't remember, but I take for granted sometimes people don't fully know what I mean, or I didn't specify. But 100, I'm fine with frameworks and templates, but it's customizing them and making them yours and making them pertinent to the prospect, right? Now, I use frameworks and templates. I'm not really fine
Now,
with scripts that are just like, don't change it, don't alter it. This is what you do every time, because I can get a robot or a monkey to do that if I really wanted.
yeah, so the only time I'm going to say that does work, it does work, provided that you're in Hollywood and you're getting paid $20 million to do it, and you have
Okay,
to
well,
become
that's a
that
little
person.
different.
Right. So yeah, so because you will do the script that way, you just won't get paid, right?
That's
So
true.
but we're
true.
not talking, yeah, but we're not talking about that kind of, we're not talking about that kind of environment online. You're talking about a lot of latitude and flexibility. But Ray, this is the part of the game that they really got to get, and this is super important, guys. You have to be able to put some type of discipline in your communication with these frameworks and these structures, because you can go off brand, you can go off topic. That's why Ray specializes in precision, because without that precision, then you don't know what you can't really measure. You can't really understand why you're converting if you don't have preciseness and clarity in your communication. So that's another point I want to bring out.
No, you're spot on, spot on. And that's funny that you mentioned. So all going with communication, and why Fred and I are both probably getting featured on somebody's podcast pretty soon, is my first thought when I thought that is they actually, if you followed it, they actually tried to implement the micro commitment process, but they did it kind of shitty. And that's what intrigued me. I was kind of funnel hacking them the whole way, and I even wrote a post making fun of it. And I highlighted 6 aspects. If you guys either go, I probably posted it in the free PDOCS group, I'm pretty sure. But if you guys go, there was like 6 things, and I'm like, hey, did you guys see what else he did wrong? But the alignment phase, the transition, and like I called them out on the objective of the call, because they were trying to pull a little debate in the switch, which is what I didn't mention in there, and I was hoping people would kind of pick up on, and I was trying to lead a little breadcrumbs for people to think a little. But And then when I got on the call, Fred, it's funny, I even have notes here. Bad intro. And then I started to take some notes of what, then it was all about themselves, right? We have an audience of 8K. We have the prestigious. They use prestigious 2 comic club.
Right.
I was like, we just won one last month. Like, I mean, sure, it's prestigious, but you'll never hear me say that. You would never hear me say that. So I was just thinking all these little things. Then I wrote, they have a group of 14K where they want to have you highlighted. They were basically trying to set up some mutually beneficial partnerships. But the thing is with them in this communication is there's so many broken spots that they don't even realize right now. And to be honest, I wasn't ready to help them out and just point those out for free right now.
But this is a real wide, great case study that me and you have totally unscripted to talk about the power of communication. Because again, you have to know the sophistication. Yeah, you have to understand the sophistication of your audience. And again, I didn't even realize how deep I was in the industry until last week. Like, y'all don't understand. This is crazy. When you're hanging out with Ray long enough and me, things just tend to just float in that direction. But you got to understand, like, when you're dealing with people who are at the top level of their game, it still goes to prove that it doesn't have to be perfect to work. You just have to do it. So as long as we're able to keep that kind of perspective when you're talking to people, talking to clients, or like how they were even like talking to me and Ray, this is a perfect example of, well, they still stepped out there. They still used some script. They still use some type of format, and the results still happen. So stop success for the perfect media.
But what they're trying to do is that they're most of those people aren't as established as us, and they're trying to say you don't quite qualify to go on his show, but do you need sales rep, or do you need you need some help building up your authority? We have this little program, and that's exactly what it is. And most people aren't going to pick up on that. They're going to think that, oh, this guy reached out to me to hear my expertise. Oh man, I'm not quite big enough to qualify. Maybe I need to step up my game, and that's what they're trying to do to people. That's what I don't really like about their process. Since I sniffed that out, I wasn't about to help them for free. But I will leverage their audience, certainly. So yeah.
Well, I think what you're saying is spot on. But again, it goes also show you the power of your association, because when I saw that I really have whales that I work, they call them whales. I'm like, well, these are my friends. You can call them whatever you want. I said, but the reality of it is, the reality of we that spot, more specifically, I'm still here to serve. So just really figure out why we're on the call. And this is important for your client as well.
I don't know what changed with your audio, Fred. You're cutting out like every other second, and it just happened now, like in the last minute or 30 seconds. Just every other word, it seems like you were getting cut off.
Is that better now?
Yeah, that sounded better.
Okay, cool. Yeah, Brad. I told you this, like, I'm having all types of internet connections problems.
Oh, it's good now.
Cool. Yeah, so basically what we want to be able to do is, if you aren't intentional with your why, in other words, why you're on, like why you're online, then you can easily get pulled down and sucked into somebody else's rabbit hole. I know why I'm online. I know who I need to talk to. I know why I need to talk to them. And I know exactly what the outcome needs to be. And if you aren't that clear, the next thing you know, you're going to get upsold into somebody's $20,000 course without even trying. But that's
Fred and I have both been there too.
Yeah, but that's legit the power of the communication. We have a very powerful community. Look, if you're really crushing it online, then chances are your communication skills are really phenomenal and amazing.
I would agree. And that's a huge part of it. And as Fred was talking earlier, to segue back to an earlier topic or segment about research, and I'm kind of a nerd for it too. And I'm kind of doing it without knowing I'm doing it some of the time. I know I'm doing it, but it's just like so hardwired into what I do. But just so you guys know, what I'm looking for is what are some of the hooks and the lingo that's working in the industry? What are some of the cringeworthy stuff I want to position myself against, right? I love using anti-authority in my messaging. Hey, let's just say the big guy is Tony Robbins in your industry, right? Sure, you join his mastermind or his program. How often do you think you get one-on-one time with Tony Robbins? As opposed to going with me, yes, it's a fraction of the price. I'm not him, but you get access to me every single week. You have access to my private community, yada, 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 right? So like, any ways you can use to position yourself against the big guys. And a lot of the bigger guys out there are all saying some stuff that's kind of cringeworthy to the market now and again. Especially, that became really prevalent after $100 million offers by Hormozy dropped. Everybody started with that value stack guarantee, to the point now where it's pissed in everybody's ears so much. The last thing you want to hear is guarantee this or I don't pay. It's like, oh my God, that's one of the biggest red flags you can get, because it just got pushed down everybody's throat. But yeah, so when you're thinking about, like, for me, whenever I'm looking at other I don't want to necessarily call them competitors, colleagues, whatever, but I'm always looking at like who's targeting my ideal audience. For instance, yesterday I'm scrolling across and I see an ad at Buy Hormozy with a little over 200 comments of people that are entry level. I know their sophistication level, looking to grow their business. I sent that to my DM setter thread of my internal setters, and now they're going to go through everybody that raised their hand saying I'm interested and add them as a friend and get them into my groups and start doing outreach. Like little things that are in front of us all day, I'm using it to get research from, to lead gen from, just things that people scroll by. Or I'm not going to say worse, but the objective is to get you to become a client and click on the ad. Like I'm researching the ad, I'm funnel hacking it, and then I'm using it for lead gen if it's my client. Think about it. There's so many ways online, whether it's Facebook groups, whether it's organic influencers or category kings organic posts, whether it's people running ads. Somehow they're gathering your ideal clients, whether that's roofers, plumbers, digital business owners, coaches, consultants. There's all places where these people are gathering them there for you and then putting them in front of you. And all you have to do is send a connection request and have a good outreach message. And here's just a quick example before I kick it back to you, Fred, of exactly that. I just want to screen share because this is so relevant, so just first party, and something I do daily. So, Fred mentioned something earlier that's another giant red flag and a great sign of a real expert is you actually do very well what you're teaching, right? And a big red flag for me is there's a lot of companies doing X and teaching Y. And I'm always still involved in what I do. So this is organic outreach from me yesterday. So I sent this guy a friend request, very targeted. When I shoot out my friend request, like Fred said, when I get on here, I know exactly who I want to be talking to, why I'm targeting him. Now, generally speaking, this 53-second message down here where I'm hovering my mouse would be the first one. Usually when I send friend requests, my strategy, just so you guys know, you may have heard me talk about this, I wait 24 to 48 hours before I do my initial outreach. There's a couple of reasons for that I can explain further. But long story short, this guy, after he accepted my friend request, he was in my DM within a minute, right? So like, hey, Raymond, what's up? And then I was like, I highly doubt it. Nice to make your acquaintance. Being that you're in Vegas and I haven't been there since 2010, I doubt I don't know you, right? And then he thought, hey, is there something I could help you with? So then I did what I would have done if none of those prior messages happened. What I always do after 24 to 48 hours is I do a cold voice note message. And I know we have a minute, so just so you guys are fully aware, I'll play you, and this is pretty much verbatim what I do. I don't know if the sound's hooked up to my computer, so I'll bring it up on my phone and I'll just put it on speaker. It'll play fine. And I'll play you my first outreach message. Again, 9 out of 10 times there would have been no messages before this. This is the one where this guy hit me up, and you could see it was all small talk, like nothing really counts until now. But it went from this voice note. All right, 54-second one. There we go. Hey, Raphael. Yeah, sorry for the confusion. Obviously, I think, very shortly after I sent you a request, you already messaged me. Generally speaking, you probably punched up into my recommendations and suggestions via Facebook. I'm just basically always looking to grow my network. And what I've noticed with the Facebook algorithm, I don't know 100% how it works, right? But they are pretty good at kind of recommending or suggesting people that are like-minded in terms of being entrepreneurial based, in terms of being critical thinkers, people who are creative or creators, people who maybe don't take life too seriously, but at the same time are accountable and trying to build a better life for themselves. So again, always just expanding my network. I'm hoping they recommended you because you kind of tick some of them boxes, but would love to hear a bit more about you, what you do, and yeah, thanks for the connection. Look forward to seeing some of your content moving forward. So, I mean, I do that all day. Like yesterday, I started off the day with 7 of them. I ended up getting in 4 conversations. Funny, 2 people bought PDOCS products and 2 people I booked on sales calls. So in under 2 hours, with very minimal work yesterday, doing my organic outreach method and 7 very detailed startup messages, it booked me 2 sales and 2 sales calls. So, that's just like back to the efficiency. And it's funny. So, I ended that, if you guys heard, with hope you tick some of them boxes. Look forward to seeing some of your content and hearing back from you. He ticked all 3 boxes for all 3 of my companies. I knew when I first reached out to him that he was in real estate, which we have a lot of people in real estate using our Audience Lab platform. It's a big niche on there. He's also currently looking to hire a director of sales. I run a company called the Sales Lab, and he's also looking for internal marketing help, which my PDOCS brand is copywriting marketing outreach. So I hit him back after that. Basically, if we go from my first voice note that really mattered, he replied with 1 voice note, 1 back, and then he's asking me if we can jump on Zoom. Basically, once I gave him my credentials, so I sent this, if I remember right. Yeah, it says right there at noon. I didn't hear back from him. I waited about 6 hours, and then I was like, "Hey, let me just drop one more reminder. Hey, man, in terms of high ticket sales, because this was his first thing, getting this sales position filled, and I figured either I can recommend somebody, I can put one of my clients in there, I can put one of my students in there. There's all kinds of ways I can help him. But he was looking for somebody more established, as he mentioned. I was like, in terms of sales, we have a combined 33 million closed between myself and my direct business partner. If you'd like to tell me a little more about the position you're looking to fill, compensation, full part-time, primary tasks and duties you're looking for, desired skill sets, etc., I could recommend some candidates. Then he's, hey, can we hop on Zoom? I ended up booking him, and I talked to him later today. I was away from my house when he did that, but that was another situation where this guy's probably going to either pay me a referral fee or have me manage his sales team and place some reps into his business and ultimately become a sales lab customer. And it all came from a very targeted voice note and that one, very targeted friend request and that one voice note. So just an example of like real time, real outreach done in the last 24 hours that's working. Fred, I'm sure you have some stuff to add. I went on longer than I wanted there, but elaborate.
Yeah, no worries, man. Yeah, I was just going to say it really boils down to what you just said. The targeting is everything. Because if you don't get that part right, then what typically happens is you're just SOL and you're just guessing. You don't want to guess in this game. You know what I'm saying? That's all I really wanted to add to that.
I would fully agree with that. I would fully agree with that. We're coming up on it in 9 or 10 minutes, anyways. Um, and then, when we were talking communication and, as we get better at this, what we're trying to learn, another really good example I had is I was on a sales call today, trying to help a rep that I just placed in the offer, and she was taking her first call for this business. And I help manage the sales team, so I'm on there to support her. If she needs help, I'll take over, whatever. Guy ended up no showing, and I wanted to let her kind of figure it out. I gave her some examples, but to re-engage him. And she sent me the copy after she, sent him an SMS message trying to re-engage a no-show from a sales call. And it said something along the lines of, I don't have it in front of me, but she used the word sorry really quickly when this guy didn't show up. So number one, I'm never going to apologize to start my messaging. Sometimes it just shows you're a little desperate. I mean, she was doing it more out of like professionalism and courtesy, but I'm not going to apologize for somebody else not showing up to a call. That's never my objective. And then she put something else in there saying, I'm trying to reach out and follow up with you. I don't think I ever use the word follow up when I'm following up with a person. I don't really want them to see it that way. I want them to see it as me still trying to solve a problem or deliver them some value. That's how that message should be perceived. So what I said to her afterwards, and I gave her these pointers, and she's like, "Oh my God, makes so much sense." Yada yada yada. And she comes from a very corporate professional background, so the sorries and the things she did there with using follow up might be more prevalent or more how you do it. When you're going business to consumer and marketing, you want to use terms that are going to limit sales resistance, right, and not raise them. First off, but I was like, her name's Zwaney. I was like, Zwaney, I would have basically said something along the lines of this. Hey, Fred, saw you missed our Zoom call today. Not quite sure what happened, if you didn't receive the proper link or maybe something came up. Just curious, is using our in-market first-party data still a priority for you here in 2024 and beyond? Right, just something to re-engage them. And what she did was she apologized. She said, I'm following up. And then she said, here's my booking link, like all in one message. I would break that down to about 3 messages. Number one, just re-engage him and say, have him raise his hand. Yes, Trey, I'm still interested in that. Cool. Can you tell me a little more about what you're currently doing for marketing? And do you have a budget? Currently, we're running Facebook ads, but we're not using in-market data. Our monthly budget is around X, Y, and Z. Okay, well, you sound exactly like the type of clients we work with, and it sounds like you're looking to get to the next level. Were you interested in hearing how we've helped dozens and dozens of other roofers, 2x the amount of their appointments? Yeah, I would be interested. Great. Here's my booking list, select the date and time. So I would do that in 3 or 4 segmented messages, especially via SMS. I don't want to I understand in the email, maybe crafting everything into one email. That kind of makes sense. But SMS is a little more back and forth and short context. I don't want to be putting paragraphs in my SMS. But yeah, so that's just another example. Does that make sense, Fred, the way I explained that?
Yeah, I would just I'm gonna take it a little bit more up level. I would just say, like, to your point, make sure that it's targeted, make sure that the language matches the actual industry or the audience, because you brought that up. And
Yep.
also make sure that when you're using a tie down like you're talking about, get a yes no out of them. Are you interested in X, Y, and Z? Have you considered blah blah blah? You follow me? Like, those are things that I think a lot of people miss just because they don't know. You have to have like a
You're right.
real conversation. It doesn't matter just because the medium is messenger. You still have to have a real conversation. I think that's what's missing.
Yep. Yeah. And it's hard for me to always teach that because it kind of comes naturally. I emphasize it quite a bit, but it's hard to always teach that. You know, we all have skills where we have just more natural ability, or it's something you do in your daily, you know, behavior anyway. Or as Fred and I have talked about numerous times, what transitions from the corporate world and corporate positions into the online space. And that's what I've always been really good at, is having real conversations with business owners. So for me, it was like a very smooth segue because I did it in my corporate career for 20 years. But I understand why people don't, it's not as commonplace as it seems to be to myself. So great point there. I'd like to give it a minute, and I'm just going to call on you real quick, each one of you, and you can either unmute, say pass. If you stay muted for more than 10, 15 seconds, I'll assume you pass. But I'm just going to call on each one I see on the screen real quick. And either if you have any questions, start with that. If not, maybe if you can just give us a takeaway on what you picked up today, that'd be cool. But JP, you're the first one in sequential order on my screen. So I'm going to give you the shot first. Shot clock starts now.
Brilliant, amazing. Can't hear me? Okay.
Yeah, no, you're good now. No, now I can hear you. It was just a delay.
My bad. We're currently driving and we hit a little bit of a dry patch with the signal. Anyway, it's good to see you guys as always. Just a quick comment and then question. The comment with regard to the entire conversation in its entirety is that I love that you are doing this, Ray, and I really appreciate Fred and sharing his experience as well, because those of us that are having these conversations every single day, day in, day out, constant, we are developing a sensory acuity that cannot be copied or pasted out of ChatGPT. It cannot be copied or pasted out of a template, and it cannot be copied and pasted by copying somebody else's post on Facebook. What we're talking about here is real, true, authentic, sincere, integrity-driven communication that drives sales, leads, and ultimately conversions, and then long-term business relationships for entrepreneurs to develop a real network of trust. And that's when you begin to expand out, and you have these really wonderful communities of people that are integrity-driven and have the same value system. And that's where this really sort of multiplies, because eventually you communicate enough, you attract enough of these people, you hit critical mass, and then you get a huge list, 10, 15, 20, 50, 100,000 people, and they all have the same similar worldview, psychology, value system. Why? Because it came back to that very first conversation where you were clear about what your values, what your belief system, what your pitch, what your offer, and who you're targeting. And that's really my comment. And then the question that I had on the back end is, how'd y'all get so damn good? And that's all I have. Thanks. See you guys later. Take care.
Fred, you could take the question. How'd you get so damn good?
Hanging out with Ray.
Oh, son of a bitch, you copped out.
No, I'm not gonna cop out, bro. No, I appreciate that, JP. I really do appreciate the high comments. That means a lot to me, more than you know. It just really came from caring about people. And again, listen carefully to what I'm saying, because I know we all kind of care about people. Notice I said kind of. The reasons why is because when I was talking to automotive dealers for like 20 years, they've seen it all. They already know, they've read the best books, they've got tens of millions of dollars on the books. Some of them have 2 to 3 generation, what they call generational wealth in their families, right? So I've had to learn a very refined, high level type of communication. I had to engineer it actually. So as a result of that, when it came to going to other quote unquote unsophisticated markets, like you can go down my timeline, you'll see me in South Central LA, right? Doesn't matter where I'm at or how I'm communicating. I still see people as people. I see like the internal struggle that they all have. I see the anxiety that they all keep. And it doesn't matter whether or not you're a professional in a $5,000 suit crying in your Bruno Magli's, or you're in the hood with barely 2 nickels to rub together, like I helped out a guy the other day who needed some food at 7-Eleven, right? The reality of it is I see people. And I think if we start focusing in on just like really seeing people, part of that process though is like really being there, like not just thinking in your head like how you can extract money. That's cool. We all here to make money. Okay, this is not a nonprofit. But what we're looking to do specifically though is that if that person in front of me isn't in alignment with me some way somehow, I don't need to be talking to them. So I've only focused in on just doing that. That's the reason why the targeting is so important. That's why people tell you to just stick with one audience and then expand later, because until you can really focus in on that one thing, you can't listen to understand. You're just listening to respond. So you want to be able to just really get your craft down by figuring out where's the most what they call opportunity volume, meaning that there's a whole bunch of people who have that exact same problem, and you talk to one, and then you talk to two, and then it turns into four. And next thing you know, you're really becoming a genius in that craft. Like as an example, if you're an agency speaking to chiropractors, why would you want all of a sudden take in gym owners? They're two totally different ways of thinking. You'd have to engineer and recraft something else over there. Just focus in on that one person, and really understand that if you're talking to people, and I hate to say this, but it's true. If you're talking to people who don't have a lot of margin, then you might want to give them like a low ticket offer and a mid ticket offer. But the more that you start honing your communication skills, the more you can charge 50, $100,000. Like even when we were with Audience Lab, we created two offers in there, 17K, 30K. It just because you understand the sophistication level of the audience, but it doesn't mean necessarily that they can't get like a low ticket offer either. You really have to understand where your audience is in relation to that and communicate directly to that and communicate only to that. If not, then you're going to have this schizophrenic message all over the place and people won't understand you.
Great point. And you probably answered that. You answered that in a very good way, probably better than I could have. I like how you really said, basically be present and actually see people. I mean, an example, somebody asked me how I got so good. First thing that comes to my head is repetitions, not having a limited mindset and being comfortable being uncomfortable. And for me, being unfiltered is one of my core values that there's pros and cons, but it really plays into me being able to speak to my audience and be genuine and authentic. So I think those are a couple of things that I would say and that kind of play into my strengths. Good question though. And yeah, thank you for the compliments, JP. What I was thinking as you were first talking about like your takeaway, I was like, this guy listened and knows how to communicate. I was like, I know exactly what he's saying. So like just a good example of what we were talking about here today. Tony, I don't know if you have a second or if you're there. Any takeaways or any questions?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm new to the direct message through Facebook type prospecting.
Yep.
I have more of a automation type, perspective on all this sort of stuff. And honestly, the first thing I thought of was how is that scalable? But after I continue to listen, it's one of those, I think, as JP alluded to, it's just kind of, I call those maybe a grassroots approach where you're grinding, and so, but it seems like, based on the audio messages you allowed us to listen to, it's a very not only personal approach, but it may be a way to separate yourself nowadays.
Oh, it certainly is. That's what I get my most common reply to that is, damn, Ray, nobody's doing this, or I'm going to steal this outreach. And I'm like, go ahead, man, use it. But so that's the most common thing I'm hearing, but continue.
Yeah, so that's kind of my takeaway from what you showed us and what we've talked about. Nowadays, I guess it's just potentially a way to separate yourself because nobody's doing that. It definitely takes a lot of muscle to kind of muscle through all of the direct messages and stuff like that, making sure you're connecting with the right people, so but yeah, that was my takeaway for today.
Yeah, and that's a good point. So there can be certain limitations or restrictions to scale, but think of merging that in with what you're already doing. So you can automate the email cold outreach. You can automate, you can automate most of your auto responses from your ad booking, right? Like you can automate the confirmation and the reminder messages and all that stuff. But for like cold outreach on a particular platform, engaging with an individual, I think that is how you stand out. And the way I do make it somewhat scalable is I teach this to other guys and then I let them come in and do it for me for 10% of the sales price. So now I could have 5 guys out there doing what I'm doing while I'm working with clients. So it's by outsourcing and giving a small percentage, but still teaching people how to put that personal touch on it. And that's the best I can give you an answer there. Fred, anything to add to that?
Yeah, 100%. I want to add to that. And thank you for such a real answer. I am a crazy, insane scaler, Tony, as Ray would tell you. My brain is completely dipped in left brainness. I've just recently I've just recently become human to learn how to even speak. I promise you, I'm not even joking when I say that. I'm socially awkward, but now I've learned how to get out of that, because all I did in the automotive industry was just literally, as a conversion rate optimization specialist, find that one thing and get an insane result. Like, so that's what I've been doing all my time online as well. Well, what I can say is that when you personify your automations, that's when your conversions go up. So you don't ever want to, and again, just please take this for face value. You don't ever want to just kind of like let your message just kind of go on autopilot, so to speak, because the market dynamics change so much, especially since 2020. Now that everybody knows how to do this, and they're like, oh my God, there you can actually make money online. Oh, all of a sudden I want to be this, I want to be that. It's like, okay, guys, were you an expert to begin with? Because this is not as easy as it looks. So when you personify your automation, that's when you start really getting some amazing, like, warm glove feels to it. So, like, as an example, I'm working with one girl in AI. Same thing. You can have the canned messages that come with AI, or you can just say, hey, I want to check this out, and blah 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 blah. Because, like, as an example, I'm a good copywriter, so I don't need to sit here and craft something like that. Sometimes it's faster for me to go to Chat GPT, bang it out real quick, but personified, people can still feel my essence. That's how I think it should be used these days,
Yep.
because it's more of a hybrid versus the way it used to be before, when the market was unsophisticated. Now the market's extremely sophisticated, so they're wanting this what I call high tech, high touch.
Great answer too. Cool.
Thank-
Well,
Rebecca, I'm not sure if you're able to speak. I don't know if you were, if you have service, if you're driving with JP, or if you're separate, but did you have anything to add or any questions?
Hi, hello.
Hey, good to hear from you.
Sorry, I'm actually the one driving right now.
Okay, we'll get back to driving then.
I did just want to say thank you guys so much for the call. Very, very valuable as always. I always get a lot of value out of the calls that you guys do, and I'm always really happy to hear all of the information that you guys have to share. And you guys do that for free when you do the calls, and I think that is just really noble. And I gotta go because
Totally. I get it. I get it. Driving kids, 100%. Great. Thank you for the compliments. I appreciate that. I mean, that's my main objective, and that's why I try to have on experts and colleagues and people like Fred that I think can actually deliver something of value. Like when I start talking to people about having on experts, one of the first things I'll say is, so this is kind of who my audience is. What can you bring that's going to deliver them value? Or what can they implement and execute right after, like, you and I talk? And if they don't tell me something that's really valuable, and I've actually had a couple that told me and they sounded good, and they kind of flopped. I'm not going to lie. I hosted a couple of these that I didn't think were super valuable, or the guest that I thought was bringing value talked about themselves more. It's going to happen. It's part of the game. But this one flowed really good. Like Fred, this one felt really good.
Yeah, me and Ray are married forever in perpetuity. This is my other bro. It's a real bromance, and because we've worked together so long, like we've built multi-million-dollar companies together. So it's that's what happens, and I really appreciate that, Ray, more than you know, because it is about giving people value so they can actually do it in the marketplace. And I think, again, I'm just not hearing about this Jay Abraham guy, but literally he was like, hey, I want to be able to coach people up to where if I'm asking for $25,000, you're happy to stroke the check. So that's how I really look at it as well.
Great. I know there's a couple other people on. I'm sorry, I just didn't have time to get to everybody. We went a little over. It's ironic, that screenshot I showed you and that voice note I listened to, that guy's on my calendar in 6 minutes. So I got to run and go prep a couple things before the call. But I'm going to upload this again. The replay will be on Facebook, also on YouTube. YouTube, everything will be in the description. Facebook, if you need anything, Fred's already in the group. Everybody in there can get a hold of him or find him easily. But down in the description on YouTube will be the info to Fred's YouTube channel, to his Facebook community, and you guys can get connected with him as well. So looking forward to seeing you guys soon. Thanks for attending. Thanks for the feedback. And Fred, you and I are jamming tomorrow, right?
Yes, sir. And I just dropped the link down, guys. So yeah, much love with that one. And Ray's got to hop. I got to hop. Much love. We love you. Teamwork makes the dream work. Let's go.
Thanks, everybody. We'll catch you next time. Thanks again, Fred.
You're welcome.